A long time ago, I made a video on this channel that was titled something along the lines of Aria the Animation, the greatest anime ever. Obviously a bit clickbait, but it is an opinion I stand by as I am a pretty big fan of Aria. However, since I made that video over 2 years ago at this point, there's been even more Aria released. Specifically, 2 new movies have come out. Those movies are called Aria the Crepuscolo and Aria the Benedizione. So I feel like it is only right that I get to also cover those movies and give my honest thoughts on them as the most modern additions to the Aria franchise. And that is exactly what I'm going to be doing in this video. So without any further delays, let's just get to talking about these movies. So for those that don't know, Aria is an EHK series, meaning that it's a slow show that is supposed to feel healing. It's filled with good vibes, soothing music, and it's just overall pretty nice and pleasant to watch. But if you want to dig a bit deeper into it, it's also a sci-fi/fantasy slice-of-life series that follows Akari Misunashi and her friends as they work to become full-fledged Undine. Basically, tour guides that take customers around in gondolas. Think Venice, Italy. Oh yeah, and the show is set in Neo-Venezia, which is located on the planet Aqua, which is a terraformed version of Mars. The Aria TV anime is based on a manga written and illustrated by Kosue Amano, who has also written the manga Amanchu. Aria the Crepuscolo is a 1-hour movie that was released on March 5th, 2021, and Aria the Benedizione was the follow-up to the first movie, released shortly after on December 3rd, 2021. Just like the TV series, they were both produced by Studio JC staff, and once again directed by Junichi Sato. The 2 movies are also follow-ups to the Aria the Avvenire special that showcased Akari now running Aria Company as a prima Undine and having her own apprentice in Ai Aino. So first up we're going to go through the story of Crepuscolo. At this point in time, our main cast from the original series, namely Akari, Aika, and Alice, have all graduated and become prima Undine, meaning that they are all now responsible for their own juniors in Ai, Asusa, and Anya. And where Avvenire focuses on Akari, who has taken over Aria Company, this movie mostly focuses on Alice and Athena. So this starts out with a new Orange Company Undine, Anya Dostoyevskaya, feeling sad that her Undine mentor, Alice, and Alice's mentor, Athena, are not spending much time together anymore. This is a result of the fact that Athena is now a singer, and because both of them are busy and neither of them wants to be a bother to the other, they try to keep their distance. However, Anya gets together with her fellow Undine trainees, Ai Aino and Asusa B. McLaren, to help work out a plan on how Alice and Athena will get to spend more time together. And with the help of all the usual cast from the original series, Anya gains more insight into Alice and Athena's feelings and uncertainties around various things. And we learn that Alice and Athena might be more alike than either of them thought. Okay, so the best way I can describe this movie is that it's just more Aria. Now, if you're a big fan like me, that is most certainly not a bad thing. But if you were hoping that this movie was going to bring something different to the table, then you are definitely going to end up being a bit disappointed. There really isn't much different between this and the rest of the series. The plot still centers a lot around growing up and becoming an adult, while also maintaining that positive attitude towards those great memories you have built up with those who are important to you. The only thing that this movie really adds to the table is that it takes a bit more of a look at some of the uncertainties and reservations that Alice and Athena have about each other and the time they spend together. Alice is scared that she can't live up to being a good senior and teach others, while Athena has reservations about thinking that it was okay if Alice failed her prima Undine double promotion exam. Basically, they're both just worrying about nothing. Alice is basically experiencing the same worries that Athena had when she first was told that she would be getting a new junior, while Athena is making a mountain out of a molehill. But yeah, things are mostly the same, and we still get the same feel-good that any episode of Aria would usually bring. I especially like the scene where Athena dresses up as the witch Befana, in an attempt to appeal to Alice's childish side that she was rejecting. La Befana is like an Italian Christmas/New Year's tradition about an old woman who visits and hands out candy to good children and coal to bad children on Epiphany Eve, which is on the night of January 5th. So the whole thing is basically an Italian version of your parents dressing up as Santa when you were a kid. It's pretty cute. Now obviously Alice sees through it right away, since she doesn't believe Befana exists, and it's not very hard to tell that it's just Athena in disguise. But she goes along with her anyways. Once they go out and get to their feast, the two have a heart-to-heart. Athena tells Alice that growing up isn't boring like she expects it to be, and that fun things will still come, but at a more regulated and relaxing pace than it does as a child. It's honestly just a very nice scene. But my favorite scene in this movie is the scene at the end, where Athena and Alice finally meet up again and get up on stage to sing Athena's songs together. That was a very emotional scene for me, for many reasons that I will get into more in a little bit. But yeah, basically everything that I like about Aria is still very much present in this movie. Even the cast has reprised their roles, and that's nice, because they all just sound like older versions of themselves, which fits perfectly with where the characters are currently at in their lives. There is, however, one thing that has changed in terms of voice cast for this movie, which I will get more into now. So the one exception to the cast reprising their roles is the voice of Athena Glory, Alice's teacher during her training to become an Undine at Orange Company. In all of the original anime's runtime, Athena was voiced by Tomoko Kawakami. Her amazing voice really put a lot of heart and soul into the character of Athena. However, sadly, in 2011 she passed away at only 41 years of age due to cancer. Because of this, she obviously couldn't reprise her role for the Avvenire specials. But in those episodes, rather than recasting Athena, they opted for keeping her in the back, and the only thing we hear from her is Eri Kawai singing, something which definitely hit me right in the heartstrings. But obviously, with these two new movies being made, they couldn't simply keep her voiceless, and removing her from the show entirely would have also been very sad. So instead, they opted to cast Rina Sato as her voice. And while it is still sad that they had to make this change, I have to give plenty of credit to Sato for her amazing performance as Athena. In my opinion, she managed to keep the identity of the character in terms of her acting, and her vocal performance was also very good. It was definitely important that they got a good singer to voice her, given that Athena's love for song and fantastic singing voice is such a big part of her as a person. And when she starts singing Athena's songs, together with Alice, especially Baracole, it really hit me emotionally. On one hand, I'm glad Sato was able to do a good job with it, but on the other hand, it made me sad knowing that Kawakami couldn't be there for it. But such is life. Almost poetic that something like that would end up as almost a backstory for Aria. Anyways, let's move on to the second movie. Now, in Aria the Benedizione, the focus is on Himiya Company, and especially Aika, who to everyone's surprise is refusing to inherit the company's legendary gondola. This gondola has, among others, belonged to Aika's mother, aka the Queen of Himiya, before her. Aika's apprentice Asusa is unable to understand her decision, and so decides to confront Aika about it. The reason Aika doesn't want to inherit the gondola is that it's cursed. However, Asusa, together with the rest of her Undine friends, decide to arrange a meeting to better understand Aika's opinions and reasons for not following Himiya tradition. And so we are taken on a trip down memory lane as we learn more about Aika as a person, and about her personal insecurities she had to overcome in order to become a prima Undine. So just like Crepuscolo, Benedizione is also mostly spent reliving and giving context to previous events that we've all watched in the original series. This time, we are learning about Aika's insecurities that she had to overcome in order to become a prima Undine, all because she didn't want to inherit her mother's legendary gondola, which is tradition in Himiya. Like I said, the reason Aika gave was that the gondola was cursed. But as we learn, it's not so much the gondola itself, but rather Aika that is cursed. At least according to herself. What she means by this is that she is not a talent or someone who got to where she is simply because she is the daughter of the owner of the company. She instead had to follow a very similar path to her mentor Akira. Their lack of God-given talent could only be made up for with hard work. It's also why when we once again get to reminisce about Aika's Prima exam, that we get to see a new side that we didn't get before. Aika was not simply satisfied with passing the standardized test that said she was good enough for promotion. She wanted to be acknowledged by Akira. So instead she took a much harder personalized test by Akira, which involved chasing her around Neo-Venezia at night in order to try to steal the rose that she had put up in her hair. The only condition was that Aika was not allowed to step off the gondola. Obviously, she passed the test and was given permission to be promoted to Prima Undine, and after that, she was set to take over her own branch at Himiya. Honestly, Aika's entire story is a very interesting one. Being born to the queen of one of the most legendary gondola companies in Neo-Venezia, she lived most of her life with heavy pressure on her shoulders. Everyone had high expectations for her, and her eventually taking over was an expectation, at least from the outside looking in. However, the queen, Aika's mother, was always very adamant that she should choose to become an Undine and take over the company of her own volition, and not because it was expected of her. That is also why Queen chose Akira to watch over Aika. She needed someone who wouldn't try to force the position on Aika and who would make her stronger. While on the other hand, Akira was the perfect mentor for Aika, since they were very similar in that they had no natural talent. And while it was originally Alicia from Aria Company who was Aika's idol and the person she wanted to be like, she also realized that they were just too different. One was gifted with God-given talent, and the other was not. And so Akira ended up becoming Aika's most important support player, and all in all, just a very important person in Aika's life in general. The other reason Aika didn't just want to inherit the gondola was that she is a very headstrong girl. She doesn't simply want to follow what other people tell her to do, but instead forge her own path ahead. Hence why, as the leader of her own branch, she also comes up with new ideas for them to try out. She is basically trying to make new traditions as well, and not just blindly follow what came before. A very respectable trait. So all of these factors put together is why Aika never really felt a need to inherit the legendary gondola. And the thing that was most important to her friends was that it wasn't just Aika's insecurities that made her want to not inherit it. But enough about that. Let's move on to my final thoughts on these two movies. So by and large, these movies are just more Aria. But if this is just more of the same, why did they need to make more? The simple answer is that they didn't. There is little in these movies that suggests that they absolutely needed to make them. But the reason why they did is because it works as a nice send-off for the characters, as well as clearing up some lingering uncertainties that the characters still had during the original series. And I appreciate that. But I definitely wouldn't say that these are must-watch movies. If you're a big fan of Aria like me, then these movies are gonna give you that feel-good feeling and put a smile back on your face, just like the series did. But if you're not a big fan, or didn't feel like there was a need to continue after the series ended, then you have no need to watch these movies. In my opinion anyways. But that is not to say that these movies are pointless. They serve as a nice form of reminiscence about characters that we cared for, and about their personal insecurities and other factors that they had to overcome in order to become Prima Undina. And reminding us once again how important it is to have good people around who are willing to back you up and push you forward when you're feeling down. Alright, so those were my thoughts on the two new Aria movies. Aria is a series that has meant a lot to me personally for a very long time at this point, so being able to watch even more of it has made me very happy. Yes, it's a lot of retreading old ground and looking backwards instead of forwards, which is a bit different to the original series, but I still feel like it serves the same purpose. In order to know where you're going, you need to know where you came from, and who helped you on that journey. And I feel like that is basically what these movies are really hammering into stone here. Not strictly needed, but still nice to see. It's also the end of the Ao no Curtain Call, or Blue Curtain Call trilogy, which also includes Aria the Avvenire. So this is probably the end for Aria. A great series that I will always take with me for the rest of my life.